Welcome to the March 20. Oh, I just realized my little thing has the year wrong, but the March 2022 meeting. There we go. But anyway, the March 2022 UARC meeting. I'll have to fix that after I throw it over to Morris, which I'm going to do now. Morris, tell us about what's coming up.
Well, let's see. I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. It's a meeting that I'm kind of looking forward to. It's an aspect of ham radio that I've never been involved in, and not even aware that you could do the kinds of things that they're going to talk about doing. So I'm really looking forward to it. Couple of upcoming things. We're hoping, unless the world turns way south again, all of the indications are that the pandemic is winding its way down. So we're believing that we will probably be able to do in-person meetings. Is there enough ifs in that statement yet? Starting in September. And we'll let you know absolutely for sure. We are also planning on streaming it live like we're doing tonight, so that we'll have the best of both worlds. I will be teaching more ham radio classes, technician and general classes starting in April. I wrote it down and I can't read what I wrote. Technician class will be on 9 consecutive Mondays starting April 18th. And the general class will be on 9 consecutive Wednesdays starting April 20th. If you know anybody that wants to get into ham radio, please invite them to send me an email, and I will send them an email and invite them to join us. We will do it online on Zoom, and it's been relatively successful for the last 2 years or so now. I think that's all I have to say. Was there anything else I was going to mention, Clint?
No, nothing that I have on my notes.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you. I have it corrected. It turns out I grabbed the wrong file. I had made the right file, but now it's the correct one that I have displayed. Anyway, don't forget the Utah Digital Communication Conference on March 26th, near the end of this month, at utah-dcc.org, utah-deltacharlie.org. It'll be about all things digital. Gordon, our Microvolt editor, wanted me to mention that the Microvolt was mailed within a reasonable amount of time, but it seems to be delayed in getting out. I received mine a couple of days ago, but other people report not having received theirs. But rest assured, it is on its way. So you know how things go, USPS, snail mail. And you stole my thunder a little bit. I was going to mention that we are looking at meetings in September. There's a few logistics on that, just mainly making sure we get a good, solid internet connection outbound so that we can do proper streaming. But we are planning to do that. Also on my list is to remind everybody that this Sunday, we spring forward, which means we lose an hour in the morning, but gain an hour in the evening. And always the second Sunday in March that happens. And I believe I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again too. Sorry if this sounds like a broken record, but see here, I'll bring it up. Remind people that if you are in the valley and get on 2 meters, or you are somewhere else in the world and want to listen to what 2 meters and 70 centimeters sounds like, if you go to the SDR Utah page, for the Northern Utah SDR page, which I'll bring up here, right down here, you'll see Salt Lake Metro VHF UHF. If you click on that, you'll get to this screen here, and you have at your disposal the entire 2-meter band, the top 4 meg of the 70 centimeter band. Now, the reason I bring this up is, supposing you have a new radio and want to find out what it sounds like to others and how it's set up. So I will click right here and mute the audio so that we don't, but this is a net that's going on the 7/8 repeater, and you'll notice that these bars right here are telling what the deviation is. Now, if you don't see this number going up to, 4.5 and occasionally 5 kilohertz very often, like this max number, that probably means that whoever is talking, or maybe the repeater itself, has their mic gain turned down too low. And of course, if the mic gain is too low, adjusting your power won't do squat, because that's not what your audio has nothing to do with your power level on FM, as you learned when you were studying for your license. Not only that, if you want to know how you sound, listening on another radio at the same time you were talking is a terrible way to do it. Mainly because not only do you sound weird to yourself, which I'll tell you, if nobody else will tell you, I'll tell you that you do sound weird. Everybody does. There's this recording button here. So you click on that and it'll record what's going on. You can record a net if you like. And then when you stop it, it'll give you all this jazz about maybe it won't work, but it almost always does. Right click and save link as, and then you can save the audio file. Then you can listen to the net or your own self to see if somebody is complaining about a weird noise or hum on your audio. You can use that to find out if that's really true or not. And then more importantly, compare your audio with others that are on the air. Do you sound loud, muffled, quiet, whatever, like that? So let it go for a little while, especially in comparison with other people. And again, go to just sdrutah.org, which is this page here. And this also has the page for the HF receivers up north. But this one down here is the one that'll get you to the Salt Lake Metro. It's up on the East Bench, so it covers the valley pretty well. It doesn't really cover Utah or Davis and Weber counties too well, but at least the Salt Lake valleys and the repeaters that are on the mountains and, more or less along this part of the Wasatch Front, it covers fine. Okay, I will now wake up Paul, AE4KR. Paul, you awake now? We have a presentation, or he has a presentation for you, a quickie one. I'll let you introduce yourself and what the topic of your presentation is.
Okay, I am Paul, AE4KR, and tonight's Elmer's Corner presentation for a few minutes is called 10 meters for techs. And let me start by sharing the screen here. So I will share this one with sound. All right, and I will pull up this slide because this is what prompted this conversation. This is an example of all the HF privileges technicians have. And that may sound foreign to a lot of technicians watching this presentation. But technicians took over all the old novice privileges on HF, which includes CW only on 80 meters, 40 meters, and 15 meters. Technicians generally do remember that they have sideband privileges on 10 meters. And the person I was talking to said, I'm not sure it's worth investing in that band because we have so limited space up there. Well, that's because this slide is not to scale. These bands, 80 meters is 500 kilohertz wide, a half megahertz. 10 meters is 1.7 megahertz wide. It's huge. And so let's look at another slide that puts them in scale. Okay, so now look at 10 meters. And here's what you have available on 80, here's on 40, here's on 15. 10 meters, you have all this available. The yellow space, you're allowed CW and data. And unlike the other bands, the novice technician band goes all the way down to 28.0. So down at the very bottom where the DX hangs out sometimes when the band is active, you can go there. From 28.0 to 28.2, 28.3, you have CW and data privileges. From 28.3 to 28.5, you have sideband and CW privileges. Well, this lower part, you say, well, Paul, I don't speak beep. I'll never go down there. Well, there's other stuff available down there. Remember, it's CW and data. And I'm going to show you a couple of things in the next few minutes that you can do down there, even if you're not a CW operator. And I'll start with this slide, and it's a brief video, so watch this. Okay, this is recorded off the Utah SDR, and that you see here where the tuning is. This just happened to come up this way when I pulled it up. This arcing thing here is some kind of over-the-horizon radar or some kind of odd noise that's changing in frequency, and it will go by every once in a while, and you just put up with that noise. But if we keep going, we're going to look at the FT8 indicator here. Now, if you can see this, this was a moderately active day on the band. It wasn't a great opening, but if you look at the FT8 frequencies, about 28.074 megahertz, if you see a bunch of stripes here, you can know that the band is probably open. And these are often very low power stations. Here is a page from someone's log. This was from KZ9HMR's log. He gave me permission to show you this. He doesn't have a fantastic antenna on 10 meters, but this is some things he worked on February 22nd. And I'm sorry, on February 14th, 13th, 14th, and 16th. So there's some stateside stations here. There's a 4, a 3, a 3. WI7P is a local. But then take a look down here, HL2EIZ. JA2INL, that's in Japan, and South Korea. Those can be worked easily with 100 watts on FT8, and as a technician, you have access to those. So just keep that in mind. Next thing that's down there that's fun is 10-meter beacons. Beacons are automated CW stations that go generally 24/7, and if you'll notice on the list here, many of them are very low power, 2 watts, 2 watts, 25, 2, 3, 8. These are stations all over the world, literally, that are broadcasting CW signals on 10 meters all the time. And they're all most of them are between 28.1 and 28.3. So if you tune that part of the band, and if you have a receiver with a waterfall and see what looks like a CW line on the waterfall, it's probably one of these CW stations. And I'll scroll down the list here to show you how huge this is. This is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of these. And so let's see, close all tabs here. All right, I'm going to show you a very specialized kind of beacon. This is a beacon network system put up by the Northern California DX Federation. And this is a group of 18 beacons that take turns on the same frequency. And then they operate on all bands sequentially. So if you're interested in 10 meters, you can watch the 10-meter frequency at 28.200 for these to come by. And you don't even have to copy CW to do this. You'll notice that right now, at the time this video was shot, 4X6TU in Israel was sending on 28.200. And a few seconds later, that will switch, and OH2B will move from 12 meters to 10 meters and take that frequency. The band wasn't good enough to hear many of these today on 10 meters, so we're going to listen on 20 meters for a few seconds and see what comes by. And I'll switch back and forth from this view to show you what's operating over here to the waterfall. So that weak signal was YV5B in Venezuela. It wasn't coming in too well, but every 10 seconds, what's on the frequency will change. Here comes the next one. Now, you might have heard that after the call sign was given, there were 4 long dashes sent. The call sign and the first dash are sent at 100 watts. And this particular station is on the roof of the United Nations building in New York City. So the call sign and the first dash were at 100 watts. The second dash was 10 watts. The third dash was 1 watt. And the fourth dash was 100 milliwatts, a tenth of a watt. So you'll be surprised if you tune down here and look at these, how often you can copy that 100 milliwatt signal. Let's look at the next one. Okay, VE8AT is not coming in very well. The next one I think is California. And if you noticed, you could hear that last tone at 100 milliwatts. And at 100 watts, it was coming in about S7. So you can watch these go by for a few minutes on whichever band of these you want and get a really good idea of how propagation is around the world. You say, well, you know, beacons sound cool, but what about those of us who don't copy Morse code? I have not tried these in the past, but just before the meeting, I looked for one of these and found an app for Android called Morse Expert Decoder. And I played the recording you just heard of those stations going by, and it decodes a lot of junk just from the noise it's hearing. But when it gets to a real signal, it does a pretty good job, and I've highlighted those. So W6WX was that California beacon station, and the TTTT was those 4 tones it sent. KH6RS in Hawaii was next, and it only heard 3 of the 4 long dashes. So that's what that's showing you there. I'll show you just a couple others that might be interesting. This one, I heard this afternoon, just as the band was closing about 4:30 p.m. That was ZL3TEN. That is a 50-watt CW beacon in New Zealand. And at the time I heard it, it was the only thing on the band. And that'll happen a lot on 10 meters where you will hear things coming through and you think, well, if I'm hearing that, why am I not hearing North Carolina or Texas or the Pacific Northwest? Well, that's just the way 10 meters is sometimes. Sometimes it's like you have a pipeline to one spot on Earth, and if nobody happens to call CQ, you won't know about it. Okay, so here are some Utah 10-meter beacons. I wanted to show you these because there are several around here, and sometimes it's useful to check antennas. And if you want to find the entire beacon list, go to this URL, and I'll repeat this at the end, or you can watch the recording back. qsl.net/wj50/beacon, or BCN for beacon. And again, these are 3 to 10 watts, and they're scattered around Utah. And that's a good way to check out an antenna if you're 40, 50 miles away from one and just see if it's working. All right, I'm going to skip over a couple of these and show you something you can do that may be free. I don't know how many of you have one of these sitting around somewhere. This is an old police scanner. This happens to be a Radio Shack model. It was sold in about 1994. These fell into disfavor when police and fire agencies went to digital and trunking systems for their communications, and these couldn't follow them anymore. However, the old commercial VHF low band went down to 25 megahertz. So these scanners will cover 10 meters. Now they won't do sideband and they don't do CW, but they'll do FM if you tune by default, if you tune to 29 megahertz. And this frequency shown here is 29.6. That's the international FM calling frequency. And if the band opens, you will often hear something, even with just the whip on the back of the scanner. I keep this sitting next to my desk in the office with the whip extended and just keep it scanning on a list of frequencies. And sometimes the squelch will pop and I'll hear something. And one of those things I heard was this a few days ago.
Whatever station that is, you're not quite making the machine, you're cutting in and out.
7 kilowatt, 7 kilowatt.
What you're hearing there is a station on 2 meters on a repeater in New York City that is linked to a repeater on 10 meters. And I played it for you off the SDR rather than recording off my scanner just to show you how this works. That station is on, that repeater is on 29.62 megahertz. That's a station in Hawaii trying to get in. Over here at 29.52 is the input of that repeater. And I didn't record it, but by the looks of it, that station's going to be very, very clear, that Hawaii station on the input of the repeater if you want to listen to that. And so you can listen to repeaters on the scanner from all over the country, even if you don't have an FM capable HF rig or don't have an HF rig at all. So if you have one of those old scanners lying around, try to find that thing. If you have a scanner and you want to connect it to an antenna better than what it comes with, look for one of these. This is sold sometimes as an SO238 or 239 to RCA connector adapter. But the outside of it is also the right diameter to plug into the back of your scanner with that pin as the center pin. So it works for both kinds of plugs. And one last thing I want to show you, and I'm going to go through these pretty quick, but again, you can feel free to go back to the recording or do a screenshot right now. These are the frequencies I put in my scanner. 29.3 is a calling frequency for a lot of DX. You'll hear Asia, South America calling in that frequency. 29.5 is a secondary simplex frequency in North America. 29.52, 5.4, 5.6, and 5.8 are repeater inputs. 29.6 is the primary calling frequency for simplex on FM. And 29.62, 6.4, 6.6, and 6.8 are repeater outputs. And I just put 52.525 in because my scanner will cover it. And on the odd day that 6 meters opens wide, you'll often hear people talking on the international calling frequency for 6 meters as well.8 10-meter nets in Utah. There are 3 of them now. We have one in the Salt Lake Valley that meets Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. local, 28.345. And then after informals, we move up to the FM portion of the band to try that and compare modes. Utah Valley ARC has an HF net every week, but it's only on 10 meters every other week. So you'll need to check their website, but they also meet on 28.345. The Ogden Amateur Radio Club has a 10-meter net. You can copy some of those guys in the Salt Lake Valley. That's at 7 o'clock local every Thursday at 28.385. And finally, I just want to share a few links that if you want to do a quick screenshot or look at these. 1010 International is an organization that specializes in 10 meters, and they assign you a number, and it's kind of like a contest or a collector's activity like county hunters or trying to work all countries or whatever, and they have their own awards. The 10-meter beacon list we mentioned a moment ago. The Northern California DX Foundation is here. And if you just Google their name, you'll also find them. And then Clint already mentioned sdrutah.org for that receiver. So with that, that is all I have at this point. And I'll stop sharing and see if there's any questions briefly.
Okay. Probably take a minute or a few seconds at least for any comments via the YouTube chat to appear. I might mention while we're vamping, waiting for somebody to show up with comments, is the little swoop-de-doos you see on 10 meters. They seem to be, when I've checked them out, they seem to be mostly stateside. Some of them appear to be malfunctioning 11-meter transmitters, and others appear to be industrial process machines of some kind. That I'm guessing they might be some sort of dielectric welding machines that are very poorly shielded and up to this point haven't been noticed. But Every time the band opens, even if it's only domestically, you see those swoop-de-doos wandering around.
And if you see one that goes in a pattern, try unplugging your flat screen TV. I found that out. My flat screen TV has a little birdie that just goes up and down the band repeatedly.
Right. Yeah. If you want to, one way to find out if it's really there is just compare what you're hearing to what's being heard at Northern Utah SDR. And if you're hearing it at your house but not there, it's probably at your house. Although, depending on where you are, the propagation, if you're in Utah, Salt Lake Valley, the propagation probably isn't hugely different. Okay, that should be enough time for people to type, and I don't see any comments, so that must mean either you are vocal Salmonex, or you are covered everything so completely that no one has any questions.
Or that may be the reason it's Salmonex.
There we go.
I'll just throw in that if anybody does have questions after tonight, ae4kr@arrl.org. Shoot me an email and I'll do my best to answer the question.
.net.
.net. I was going to say that.
Did I do that again?
Yeah, unless you're...
I'll get it much faster if you put .net.
Okay, there we go. All right, thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate you doing that.
Clint.
Yes, Morris.
I think we failed to mention what happens at 2 a.m. this coming Saturday night.
I did mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably affected you already. But anyway, if we don't have any other business for the club, well, I might as well extrapolate on that. Morris is reminding again that we change our clocks to rob us out of 1 hour of sleep in the morning, but give us 1 extra hour in the evening of sunrise. Sunlight. There we go. One of those things. All right. I will now let Ryan wake up and get ready to unmute himself. And we will throw to him for tonight's feature presentation. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Get my screen shared here. I moved my webcam, that way I can see or be looking more at it as I go through this. So hopefully everybody can bear with me. So one of the things is that you can do, and this is something that text can do, this is part of the data part, is Winlink. So Winlink, if I can get my thing to go, okay. Winlink, worldwide system for sending email via radio. Yes, we do that. Provides email from almost anywhere in the world. One of the things that was sent out, I think Tyler Griffiths forwarded it, or Mel did, but they were putting Winlink nodes and things like that out for Ukraine. That way, the refugee families, they'd be able to communicate back and forth, to be able to get messages back and forth, letting each other know that they're okay, that they made it, et cetera, et cetera. So this is even something that's used in that kind of a situation. It's entirely supported and operated by amateur radio volunteers. The Amateur Radio Safety Foundation, Inc. is one of the groups that does it. It is the Winlink Express is the preferred client application. There is PatLink that works on Linux, but Winlink Express, it is for Windows. It works on Apple if you have the Windows emulator. It's adopted by contingency communications by many government agencies. FEMA is one example. There's a lot of them. The list is endless. It's also used for NGOs. So the American Red Cross, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, DHS, which that has to do with the side of AT&T, but you get the idea. There is a very, very long list of people that use this. One of the things that was recently just added was even the USGS for the Did You Feel It, to try and help fill in the that donut hole that I think is what they call it, that tends to form during an earthquake, and communications and things like that are down. So there's a form now that you can use your Winlink to do it, to report back to the USGS and fill things in for their data. The different connection modes, you have a telnet mode. This is done through the internet. It's good for training, just to be able to get experience with the program and all of its functions, features, forms, and everything else. You have local VHF and UHF packet, which goes off of just a basic FM line of sight propagation. These work in the 9600 baud. Now, yes, we are talking about baud. We're not talking about anything else. So it is fairly slow, but the 9600 tends to be faster, but shorter range, and can cost more to get it set up. The most common is the 1200 baud. It is, again, 1200 baud, so it is slower, but it can be used with a signal link and a Baofeng radio. It is really simple to be able to set stuff up. So that is one of the more common modes. Then there's experimental speeds that go between the 12 and 9600 using PSK and sound card interfaces. One of them also is VARA. You can get over 9600 baud on VHS or VHF. And so there's different modes that have been coming out. This presentation's not the most up to date. So here's more connecting modes. You can do it over HF. So if we end up with an incident here and we need to be able to get out, this is, again, even the stuff that they're doing in Ukraine, where things may not be working very well, they can use HF to be able to get out of the area and be able to hit an internet gate to get the email to go through. So the Winmore and the RDOP is a poor man's Pactor, not as good as Pactor, but operates with an inexpensive sound card device, usually like a signal link for about $100. Speeds between Pactor 2 and Pactor 3, to give you an idea if you are familiar with that. The HF Pactor, it's capable of, I believe, just 2 and 3 and 4. It may even just be 3 and 4 now. Faster and reliable, but requires much more expensive equipment. And actually, Pactor 4 is not permitted in the US last time this thing was done. Then there's the VARA, multi-carrier OFDM with 2.4 kilohertz bandwidth, HF speeds approaching Pactor 4, possible optimization for FM coming. They did do that. You can get over 9600 baud now with VARA, and we do even have a VARA node out here with the group in West Valley. So that's out there to play around with. And again, that's you can do that on VHF. All RF modes can be peer-to-peer, so you don't even need the internet or anything else. The guys in Southern California do a lot with this. They can link over mountains and everything else. They can send messages just straight computer to computer, and even as a store and forward node to be able to pass them, just like passing a playing telephone, if you will. Different resources that you may need for doing the VHF, UHF, computer running Windows 7 or 10. I think 11 does it, but I've heard of some problems. Microsoft .NET 3.5 framework or better. A VHF, UHF radio with a data port or a speaker mic connection. There are a couple radios that I did find while helping others that it hooks into the external speaker and into your microphone port with the RJ45 connector. The packet TNCs, so there's Cantronics, there's TNCX, MFJ, etc., or a USB sound card interface. This would be like the Signal Link or the one that West Valley uses. I think it can also be used as a Pi hat. The TNC might require a USB to an RS-232 serial dongle, so keep that in mind. But a lot of, if you get a Signal Link, a lot of those do come with the direct cabling plus all the jumpers and instructions and stuff like that to be able to properly set it up. Or you can end up getting a radio like the Kenwood 710G or the Kenwood 72A, the handheld, that have built-in TNCs in them. And so you just need the appropriate software to run on your computer, and it will work with no extra hardware. So here's some software downloads. This will be coming up later on. If you're interested, just go to the website there for the winlink.org, and it'll have more information on there. It is also free software. It does have a spot for you to be able to get or do a donation or to purchase a licensing agreement. What this does just helps them maintain things. So a packet TNC can be a simple KISS mode or full function. The Kenwood 74 worked off of a built-in KISS. The 72 allows for more. So you can see that down there in the pictures. They can tend to cost between $100 and $1,500, all depending on what mode you want to do. If you want to do the regular 1200 baud or the 9600 baud, and how many functions, features, and bells and whistles you want to do. The radio needs to have at least a data port for doing the 1200, and especially for the 9600 baud, or use a microphone and speaker connection, and this will limit you to the 1200 baud only. The 9600 baud actually changes its properties as far as how it does it. Right now, my mind is drawing a blank to explain it, but it's not just a matter of sending the traditional digital tone through the air. It actually has to do with its FM modulation. Some radios include a built-in TNC or sound card. Like I said, the Kenwood 710 or even the 710G, they have them built into them. Again, as pictured, the Kenwood 72 there does. The Kenwood 74 also does. You might require, again, a USB to serial adapter, but that's not quite as common depending on what kind of equipment that you're using. If you use the FTDI chipset devices, I guess for better results. I'm not familiar with any of those. I end up buying my equipment that already had the TNCs in it, or do it via USB, like the 991A. So the Signal Link interface, simple device powered by USB connection. So really simple. Costs about $100, including the radio specific cable. So you can actually get in there and request it. The radio needs to, again, have a data port or use the microphone and speaker connections. And I've seen it to where it's done both. Needs to run software TNC applications such as Direwolf. Now, Direwolf runs in the background all the time. Or you can use UZ7HO's sound modem software. And that one you have to open up before opening up Winlink, or set Winlink to open it up for you. This allows your computer to communicate and to be able to start sending everything to the Signal Link to initiate the PTT and all the rest of the stuff. Again, mine's drawing a blank tonight to go through and explain a lot of it. So the hardware TNC or sound card, there's advantages to both. A hardware TNC, relatively low cost. The TNCX, I guess, one, let's see, an old one in the closet. Some of you might, depending on things. Probably the simplest connection. You don't need the extra softwares and things like that to run. No additional software needed. Or the sound card can be used for other digital modes besides Winlink. So you can end up using this for doing some of your probably other things like PSK and Rian, stuff like that, to be able to use with your Signal Link and stuff like that. The software TNC has superior decode over older hardware TNC. I don't know how they did that, but I'll take their word for it. And again, the software or the sound card software can be used for both Packet, Winmore, RDOP, and VARA. So it gives you much more versatility in just the WinLink alone, depending on which mode and frequencies you're trying to use. But they also have some downsides. They have some disadvantages to both of them. The hardware TNC only does Packet or maybe Pactor. Older units do not perform as well, and there's no new development. A lot of things have gone over to doing the software, as well as doing things like signal link, just because of the versatility. And you most likely will require a USB to serial adapter. That's partially due to the no new development. When a lot of the hardware TNCs came out, we were all still using serials instead of USBs. The sound card, its drawbacks are the sound levels and other settings may be changed unexpectedly. This can be a relatively continuous problem. It's input, output settings and things like that can end up being changed inadvertently, just with any updates, should there be any, or just doing it on the sheer off chance. So you are constantly having to check those. Requires additional software and slightly more complex operation. Again, the Direwolf is a popular one, runs in the background, but to me it looks a lot more like you're doing like a radio programming or an HTML. As far as the sound modem, that one seems to be a little bit more simple, but it can also be more quirky as far as WinLink recognizing it when you go to try and start using it. Installing WinLink is really easy. You just go to the website, click on the download, and download it. Open up the zip folder. Be careful though when you do the Google search. Make sure that it is the winlink.org. There have been some fakes out there. I think a lot of them have gone away. Just go ahead and extract what's inside the zip folder and complete the normal normal unzip and installation process. Once you open it up and you start it all, it'll start walking you through all the normal prompts, just as any other program does. Pardon me. So once you end up setting it up, you can do up all the shortcuts that you want to do. You can change the shortcuts, everything else. Once you open it up and you go to start it, you'll get this screen here. You can put in your call sign. You can set up a password. The password has to do with you being able to log in on the computer, as well as to help you get set up with some of the online portals and stuff like that that are available. You can put in your recovery email in case you forget your password. You can set up auxiliary call signs or tactical call signs. This is more for if you're using WinLink for events or for disaster or emergency communications. The grid square, you definitely want to make sure to do this. There's one of the features of WinLink is it will help you find frequencies to tune your radio to for the closest nodes, and it will give you a direction. And this is based upon your grid square. So that is definitely an important thing to have and keep up to date. So if you plan on going someplace and using WinLink, check ahead and make sure that you get the grid squares to where you're going. Radios like the Kenwood 72 and the 710G, they will give you that when you get into them in the GPS section, stuff like that for your position. It'll give you that, making it really easy. You can put in your contact information if you want. It's not required. Some different things that you can set up, different preferences as far as how you get the mails or the mail and everything else. If you're using the internet, or even if you're using the HF, and you can set it up to where it will send a separate message to your regular email notifying you that you had a message come through on your WinLink, and that's only after you've checked it. So you can do things like that for basic forwarding and for notifications. Again, installing it is pretty simple. The first time though that you originate a message using the Winlink Express, you'll be registered in the Winlink system and will have a call sign at winlink.org address. This account remains active as long as you use it regularly. Inactive accounts are usually deleted after a year. One thing that this allows you to do with having that call sign is regular commercial emails, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, if you still have it. They allow you to communicate via the Winlink Express so that you can communicate two-way with even a disclaimer at the bottom of it for the commercial side that it was sent over amateur radio, et cetera, and its guidelines. So it allows for two-way communication between ham and non-ham methods. You will also have access to the Winlink web mail system and other good tools on the winlink.org website. You can view the emails and things like that that have been sent, if I'm not mistaken, and just other different settings and things like that that can be listed on there. As well as you can have what's called a whitelist email. And so normally when you're sending it to other hams via their call sign, those are automatically white. But when you send it to a Gmail or a Yahoo, you have to initiate the email first before the other person can send one back to you. This is to try and help prevent spam. Using the email or using Winlink Express is really simple. If you look at this screen here, you'll see it looks like a old-fashioned but still a basic email client that you would have with Google, Yahoo, or any of the rest of them. You can create a new message. You have your different inboxes, your saved and your deleteds. You can still CC things. You can actually attach up to 125 kilobit attachments, so you can send small PDFs, believe it or not. It also gives you all the different selections to what type of message it is. If it's going to be a regular message or a peer-to-peer, you can do read requests on it to be notified if somebody did open it. So again, it works just like a regular email client does, with the one different exception that once you end up posting something to the outbox, it's like dropping it into your mailbox. Until you open up that session, the mail never gets sent out. So once it's in there, the mailman has to still come, and that happens by you opening up what type of session, whether it's the telnet or one of the packet or one of the HF modes that was listed earlier. And one of the things too that it does is, if you look down there in the contacts, places that are messages that you've sent in the past to different contacts, it saves them down there so you can have a quick reference. So if you have somebody that you normally communicate with, you can easily click down there to quickly add or generate an email to one of those contacts that you frequent. So when you end up starting up a session or open one up and initiate it, this one here is for a telnet. So this is all done over the internet. There's no radio in there. If you do use the radio one, it'll have the call sign of everything that you've connected to as far as which node and everything else, so that you have still a log of everything. But it shows you all your different information connected, your your messages, your speeds, and all kinds of other miscellaneous things that I don't quite understand on there. Sending or receiving a message with the message ID that it's completed, how many messages were sent or received, the number of bytes, the amount of time, and what time the session closed. And all of this stuff is all visible in the log that Winlink keeps for you. So you can reference back and keep a log for all of your transmissions. One of the other perks too is that Winlink also has HTML forms. These forms are efficient and professional looking. They can be simple or very complex depending on how they are set up. Forms can look just about like any website. They're also usually easy to use. Attractive forms are difficult to create unless you understand HTML, cascading style sheets, and JavaScript. I have tried to play around with some of this. It is definitely interesting. So, if you want to try and help build the libraries, you can try and get a hold of the Winlink team. And they need people that understand it to be able to help maintain these forms and possibly create new ones for people. The HTML form and the template set, all forms have 3 components: a template that displays the form and generates the text message to be sent, an input form that solicits input from the user, a display form that formats and displays the information on the recipient's computer. The form itself is not transmitted, only the data entered on the form, which I'll show you here in just a minute. The forms can be very complex and feature rich, but the actual data transmitted is very compact. It is a really simple thing. The receive station must have the display form installed for proper display, but they will still receive a text-only version. So if you are using a form that they do not have, they will still get a text of all the information. They just won't see it in the same way that you sent it to them or the way that you filled in the information. So here's an example of one of those forms. This is the ICS 213. You can see that it has the tracking number if they wanted to have it, an incident name, who it's to, who it's from, the subject line, the date and time, the message, who approved it, and then a submit button. So this as a user, if you select the templates under the create the message, this is what you'll end up seeing as you're filling in the message. Then once you click on the submit button, what you will get is back to your message in the Winlink when you started a new message. And this is what will actually come up in the message inbox. So it will have the subject, what it was, as far as your subject line and everything. So if you see the subject, it says it's the ICS 213, which is the form that we had, message number 123, which is under the tracking number, and then status update, which is matching the subject line. So all the information all ends up there. But where the difference comes into is it attaches the instructions with the XML so that Winlink for the recipient knows which form is being sent to open it up so that they can view the form in essentially that format there. That way they can see all the information in a quick glance without trying to go through all the text. But in a pinch, they still have all the vital information. And in an email, in a regular email, if you didn't want to use one of the ICS forms, you can address it just like a regular typed email in here. You don't even have to have all the other information that's there. You can just start typing it as if you were creating a regular Gmail email on there. So one of the things when you end up going in, you'll have a template or select templates in the new message window, and it will open up this template manager. And inside there, you can go through and you can try and find all the different messages that you want. They have a lot of the ICS messages in there, and that's mostly for the MCOM. So anybody that's interested in Winlink for that purpose. They also have ones that are medical and state specific. So Washington and Oregon tend to do their own. They also have one for the ARRL, which has the ARRL's radiogram form in it. So they have a lot of different things in there that you can end up going into and clicking on, and then it'll open it up into your regular web browser, and then you'll be able to go from there to create your form and fill everything in a very user-friendly interface. So a full set of standard forms are included with Winlink Express, and these do get updated regularly. So they are maintained by the Winlink team and other different states and other groups and everybody else that's involved with it. Updates are downloaded whenever Winlink Express is started, usually over the internet. You can also request them over the radio if you are out mobile an awful lot. Internet is definitely a lot faster though. It is recommended to keep the forms updated, but you don't necessarily have to. It will prompt you if you want to update them now or ignore it. The locally developed forms must be maintained by the local users. So those Washington and Oregon ones, they get used enough in those areas, but they still have to update them. You're capable of doing that in your own areas as well. And there's even another form or a folder rather inside the templates that you can put those forms in that are specific for your area or your group. So if there are enough local users, local forms can be added to the distribution. This is why we saw the Washington and Oregon ones in there, that they have enough people in their group that they decided to make it part of Winlink just to make it easier instead of spreading it around to all their individual members that may be coming or going. So one of the other things that they do, this is for a MCOM, or if you just want to log, Winlink has the ability to generate an ICS 309 automatically. You just have to select the information for folders, dates, and times that you want to have as part of this, and then it will automatically generate this for you. And then you'll have a log with all your basic information as far as the messages that you have sent and received. So in a conclusion, Winlink Express use continues to grow, especially for MCOM. It's been joked about the packet radio has been around for 50 or 60 years, but only inside of about the last 10 to 15 has anybody really found a use for it. And this is one of the ways that they've done it, is by using Winlink. A lot of information can be passed quickly and accurately and free up the regular phone side, for repeaters and things like that. The Winlink development team continues to enhance capabilities to adapt to changing needs. They do with that via their constant updates to the software. I imagine that there's probably stuff that's going on with Windows 10 now. And the different forms and things like that. So there's constantly updates that are still going through. Installation and setup is relatively easy. It will only take you just a few minutes to go through and get this thing set up and be able to start doing the telnet side of it. It's when you start trying to use the radio, can it start getting a little difficult? And that just has to do with radio settings, setting things like your signal link box correct and other different audio levels, but other than that, it's relatively simple. And again, like I've said earlier, it has a familiar email-like interface, so it mirrors relatively close to what you use probably in your day-to-day life. So it's not something that you have to completely learn all over again. It does support multiple radio transfer modes, which we listed earlier, so we can use it UHF, VHF, and HF, depending on how far away you wish to try and send it, whether you want to just try and do it, or if you need to be able to get outside the area because the system here is down and there's no internet here and you want to still be able to communicate out. There is still the support for both hardware and software interfaces, although again, the software has probably become the more common interfaces more so than the hardware. And any questions that anybody may have? So Clint, I don't know if anybody has any questions on the YouTube or comments.
Let's see, I'm watching it here. I don't see any so far.
Well, I've either done what AE4KR did and either answered everybody's questions or put everybody to sleep.
No, we have about 24 people watching. But anyway, did somebody just say something?
I tried to.
Okay.
How does this handle if for Winlink if the destination station is not available?
Depending on how you send it. So if it is sent through the Winlink system, So if you do it up as a regular Winlink message, it stays in the Winlink servers until that destination station logs in to check for their messages, essentially. So it's you send a letter, but you're not sure if it's going to get there. But it goes to the post office where the person has their mail being held. And then when they come back from vacation, then they go by to pick up their mail, they get your letter.
So it's like
But the peer-to-peer, that one, you know that the person's getting it because they are connecting directly to you. And so there's that one. And again, you can also include in there too to get a read request. So when the person ends up getting the message, it'll prompt them or automatically send it or post it to their outbox that there was a read request, and then that will be sent to you, notifying you that they received it.
Yeah, I know that cruisers, boating, people that make long distance cruises like sailing vessels use Winlink a lot for multiple purposes. I guess one of the things they do is download weather images.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is just exchanging emails with their friends and relatives.
Yep. It works a lot of the same ways that traditional emailing works. It's just this is done over radio. And again, if I was to send you a email from via my radio or from at least just Winlink through the Winlink system to let's say your Gmail account, at the bottom of it, you will see a disclaimer about all of the the guidelines that need to be followed because it was sent via amateur radio, that has to comply with the amateur radio guidelines as far as language and content and everything like that. So we still end up passing that along so that they know that when they reply back to it, it's going to be coming back through the amateur radio and that they have to watch what they put in. Obviously we already know what our restrictions are since we're amateur radio operators, but this makes them aware. So
Okay.
it allows for that two-way communication, similar to that SMS gate. So it can be used hams or to non-hams.
Is there any way to link this with normal email, internet email?
I don't believe so. The only thing that you can do is just have it notify you when you did get one. And that's still after you've already logged on to retrieve it. I don't think it does it automatically yet.
Okay, so these people that I was talking about that are long range sailors, you can put, if you put them on your whitelist, they can email you as normal.
Yeah.
So
And
to be sure, you can, I think you can send out emails unlimited from HF. They cannot send them back to you unless they are on your whitelist. But is it true? I think it's, if you send an email to somebody, they're at least provisionally on the whitelist because you've already talked to them, I think.
Yes. That's actually, so if you're sending it to a Gmail or a Yahoo or any of those type of if it is not a ham where you just type in just their call sign and you're typing in an @email address, the amateur radio operator via Winlink has to send it through the Winlink system in order to initiate the communication. Your friends with the commercial or your regular email cannot send you one first. It'll automatically get blocked by the server to make sure to screen for spam. But once you do send them that one message, they are automatically on the whitelist. There's nothing else that you have to do. It doesn't have to be a constant communication or anything like that. But once you do send that one saying, here's my email address to send back to me, then they have everything, then they can send them whenever they want to you. And then whenever you fire up your equipment, if you are out at sea, then yes, then when you get on there and check, then that's when you'll get all those emails.
You might comment on if a friend of yours thought, without thinking, tried to send you 20 megabytes of attachments, they would probably get stripped off to some degree.
Actually, I'm not sure if it necessarily does, but you'll probably piss off more people than anything because it will take you a long time. Doing it on 1200 baud, I maxed out that 125K for sending a PDF and everything like that. It took me 45 minutes to send the message.
Right.
So-
My point is that if you want to send a picture, make it small and compress it.
Yes.
Don't send video or
Yes.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just send the minimum of what you need. And in most cases, 1,000 words, that's a lot less bandwidth than a picture.
Yeah, it does take a little bit of some cut to the point text to be able to make this one of the most efficient ways, but it is nonetheless a way to communicate all over.
Right.
It was one thing that was sent out that they made available for the people over there that have been fleeing into Poland and other different places to be able to communicate back into Russian via and vice versa, to at least be able to notify their people that, that they've made it, that they're safe where they are or whatnot, so that they can communicate with family members and things like that. So this is even being used for that.
Okay. I think I'm looking at the YouTube chat. A few things have come up. Paul Plack, which I think is on here still, isn't he?
No, he's not.
No, he's dropped off. Okay. He said, do you need to know the routing to use Winlink, or are there servers that need to know how to route? And I think we answered the question. You can send an email to anybody, and once you send them an email, they can reply to you.
And your email address is really simple. And so once you send them the email, then they'll have your callsign@winlink.org email address, and they just use that. Everything else is all taken care of on the servers on the backside of the system. Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Randall Bond says, thanks. I didn't know anything about Winlink when I woke up this morning. David Sauce asks, anyone set up a Winlink on an IC 9700 using upper sideband? And Paul Plack responded, Dave, I think it works just like my 7300. So yes, you can just use the rig's internal USB sound card. So this is not really any different than using another sound card mode, although it is arguably more important that you get the levels adjusted properly on FM or sideband. Otherwise, you will make your transmission less reliable and certainly slower. So you want to follow the instructions very carefully. And of course, the other thing too is like anything where you could be putting a brick on the key and getting your radio really hot. You probably don't want to run a 100-watt radio, 100 watts for 20 minutes solid. But
no, yeah, you definitely want to follow all your guidelines. That if you have like an auto tuner or anything like that, and you're trying to do HF and it says no more than 30 watts, you might want to stick with those powers. We are still dealing with digital modes, so it still does carry quite a bit of distance on low power. I mean, granted, we're not dealing with FT8 type stuff, but it is low power nonetheless, and usually within a few hundred miles of you, unless you're the rare exception, you're out at sea. You do have internet nodes or points within a few hundred miles to be able to get to it if you're using HF. If you're doing FM, usually you only need probably about 5 or 15 watts at most, probably, to get the most of them. So it's usually not too bad for that also. As far as the sound settings and things like that, with Winlink, a lot of the stuff ends up being automatically adjusting, so it's not too bad. It is almost a plug and play, but you can still adjust things. So it is a pretty forgiving, digital mode. So.
Right. Okay. I think that does it on the questions that have been asked by the Peanut Gallery. So if there's anyone else who has any additional questions, please chime in. And while I'm doing that, I'll acknowledge some of the people that have been watching from the beginning. Randall and David, I've mentioned so far. Arlene Johnson says, chimed in earlier. I guess that's Chuck's much better half. Was that too many muches? Hope not. Dave Hodgins thanked Paul for his presentation and will be recommending it to others. And Paul Plack says that at least if you use the rig's internal sound card, you probably only have to confirm the levels once because there's fewer things to screw up. So, oh, I see. That reason Arlene Johnson commented was because Chuck is using her laptop. That makes sense. So anyway, well, it still applies. So that's a good point, Paul. With the modern sound card, it's reduced the clutter and the number of cables you need. Anything else you want to cover, Ryan, before we wrap this up?
No, I think if nobody has any other questions, they are free to contact me if they want help getting stuff set up. I have a folder that's probably close to about 800 megs of all the program of Winlink Express, of the sound modem, of Direwolf, help documents and things like that, all kinds of information. So you're free to contact me if you want. My email is my call sign at gmail.com. So Kilo Foxtrot 7 Quebec Golf Yankee at gmail.com. And I will do my best to help you out.
Now, maybe I blinked and missed it. Did you have a slide up that had links to the programs and everything?
Yes, that should be
Okay.
actually a couple different times throughout it.
Okay. I thought you had at least once. I wasn't sure if you had everything in one place.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All
The names
right.
of the different programs and everything like that are all inside there for the two main softwares and things for the sound cards and all that
Okay.
stuff. So pretty easy to find.
All right. I'll see if I can find it and put it up on the screen right about now, if I remember to do that. So as we're talking, then people can freeze frame and jot down the
Or
links.
put it in the comment section below on the YouTube.
I can try that too, yes. All right. Just send me that list in text so that on an email so that I
Okay.
make sure I put it there and to get it firsthand rather than transcribe it from the screen.
Will do.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. And thank you, everyone. Before I close this down, is there anything else from the club president or anything? Morris, reiterate briefly again when it is you might be planning to start classes in April. Just one more time.
Sure. Let me find my note. Okay, April 18th and 20th. The 18th is the first class for the technicians, and the 20th is the first class for the general. Both classes run 9 weeks. Both classes will be on Zoom. And please send me an email if you are interested, or if you know someone that is interested in either one. You can send me email at my call sign, AD7SR, that's Alpha Delta 7 Sierra Romeo, at ARRL.net.
Okay. I might, before I forget, I also should mention the Utah Digital Communication Conference. I should have mentioned that earlier. In fact, maybe I'll edit it in so that it looks like I did. So let's see. And so I'll cut myself in there. Don't forget the Utah Digital Communication Conference on March 26th, near the end of this month, at utah-dcc.org, utah-deltacharliecharlie.org. It'll be about all things digital. Not to toot horn, but a good reason to stay away might be that I'm giving a presentation on nano-VNAs there for some reason. No, honestly, show up. It's fun to see people again. Kind of like a different nerd herd a little bit than the one that showed up in Farmington a couple of weekends ago for the swap meet, which turned out really well too. Very well attended and lots of cool junk with a Q, of course. I think that wraps us up for the evening, unless somebody has something else to bring up. and nothing on the YouTube chat. With that, I will thank everyone for being here. Let's see, who here can I ambush to tell me what is next month's topic? Ryan, you're a program chair and you have a camera up. Can you tell us what next month's meeting will be about?
Actually, I'm kind of hoping that Mike was going to be able to answer that because he's taking over the next 2 months. We split it up. I did last month idea and this month's idea, and the next 2 Mike was going to handle.
So in 10 or 15 seconds, Mike, can you tell us what next month's meeting will be about?
Yes, for the Elmer's Corner, I'm going to do something on nets. For the regular program, we have Robert Gunnell, KI7FUJ of Standard Supply Electronics, who is going to be doing the presentation on soldering basics. So all of you guys that have fumbled around with the soldering iron and have problems making good soldering joints and whatnot, and make a mess when you're trying to desolder, well, Robert's going to set us all straight. So please join us.
Okay. Yeah. I think he is of the funnel gunnel variety, not the Gunnell variety, but sounds cool. Yeah. FUJ, I told him once that he missed the perfect call sign by just 1 letter, but you figured that one out. With that, I will say thank everyone for showing up here and hope to see you again. And we are looking toward trying to get things in person again starting in September. It's contingent on a few things. Of course, what the health outlook is like, and also being able to get a good, solid internet connection out of the room in which we'll have the meeting, and of course, scheduling a room. So we probably need to start that soon. With that, thank everyone for showing up, and be safe, and see you next time. 7-3.